Not everybody's weight loss is same. Weight loss is not always equal to fat loss. We should understand that. Before starting a weight loss journey, minimum required test would be to check their CBP, HSCRP, vitamins like vitamin B6, B9, B12 and D. For the very first time in the history, percentage of population who are malnourished are now very equivalent to people who are excessively eating but still undernourished.
Global weight loss industry is worth $250 billion. WHO says obesity rates have tripled since 1975.
People usually will say, I have tried diets many times in the past. After every time I finish my diet, I lose some weight. Once I start eating back normally, I regain the weight. In fact, I gain more weight. But if you trace them, the recomposition happens in such a manner that their muscle mass is reducing. If you're a person who is not eating any vegetables, any fruits, then imagine you're deficient in antioxidants.
Top 3 barriers which are preventing or making it difficult for people to lose fat.
So people not having, first of all, protein rich foods is a problem. Most of the time people are dependent on ultra processed foods. I think the top one would be
Global weight loss industry is worth $250 billion. Right? Since it's a huge industry, everyone wants a pie from it, and that's why I think there is terrible misinformation on the internet around fat loss. So today, I want to discuss the gaps. WHO says that the obesity rates have tripled since 1975. Is the system designed to make us healthy or keep us coming back?
for the very first time in the history, percentage of population who are malnourished are now very equivalent to people who are excessively eating but still undernourished. So we are facing a crisis of obesity. Now obesity is also falls under malnutrition.
Mm.
That is the hard reality.
So since you mentioned you're eating like more calories, I think fundamentally for fat loss, most of us follow like a very simple formula, which is by calculating calories in and calories out. So if we are able to balance that somehow, then usually fat loss happens. Is a very fundamental theory.
Yes.
But what should be the strategy behind this calorie in, and what influences calories out?
We need to understand that every calorie is not created equal. If we say we are two people are eating 1500 kilocalorie diet, the food sources, food choices could be very different for two individuals and can still make up to so many calories. For example, a person is dependent on ultra processed foods and taking 1500 kilocalories, but another person is dependent on whole foods like legumes in a very balanced plate and getting 1500 kilocalories. Both of their body physiologies work differently. So I mean to say, calories are not created equal. We need not go with calories in, calories out strategy and model anymore, because though calories are same, food choices are different. How food acts as a medicine is very different. If you're eating a whole food, it can work for you and support you in your overall health. But if you're concentrating on calories and eating foods which do not nourish you, which do not add any information to your DNA, or which do not alter your biology, will not support you, and in fact it will backfire.
Right. So every calorie is not like the same calorie.
Yes.
Depends on what we are eating. So this is about calories in, and burning these calories. What influences this process?
We have been hearing people, I eat less, I work out more, still I don't lose weight. This is the common myth that we have been seeing all these years, thinking if they can spend more than what they consume, they're going to lose weight. But in contrast, what will happen is whenever we eat food less than what our body requires, our basal metabolic rate falls down. When your basal metabolic rate falls down, body will go into fat storage mode. When we are in that mode and we are trying to spend more calories, our body is not fueled enough. Basal metabolic rate is slow. So we don't have so much energy, first of all, to invest in a physical activity.
Right.
That way, this doesn't match up. Consuming less, spending more doesn't match up, because as you're going into lesser and lesser basal metabolic rate, body will turn into a fat storage machine.
Okay.
So we are storing fat while we are eating less. That will work against us.
Right.
We should build a system where we are
Mhm.
eating in certain way that body is turning into robust metabolic engine where it is spending calories while we are sitting.
Right.
It doesn't always work out calories out more than calories in is equal to fat loss. The equation is not very much direct like that because everything is interconnected from the way your genes process your food to how your hormonal systems are, how is your immune system, what kind of nutrients are available. So those will determine if you're going to lose weight or if you're going to conserve energy and store fat.
Right. And even if they lose some weight, what studies show is 70-80% of people who are on specific diets usually regain it back. So, what is the science behind that?
We often see this, right? People usually people say I have tried diets many times in the past. After every time I finish my diet, I lose some weight. Once I start eating back normally, I regain the weight what I had before. In fact, I gain more weight.
Right.
This is what we see. But if you trace them from the time they started doing these different kinds of diets and scan them and look into their body composition, how it has been changing, the recomposition happens in such a manner that their muscle mass is reducing, and their fat mass is accumulating more than what it used to be. So ultimately, they end up in sarcopenic obesity. So they end up gaining more fat, losing muscle. So their total overall body weight may look same, but metabolically they're ruining their bodies.
Right.
So what we need to build on is preserve that muscle while you're losing weight. Not everybody's weight loss is same. Weight loss is not always equal to fat loss. We should understand that. Weight loss could be from your fat and muscle both if you are not specifically working on preserving that muscle. So, in fact, that could end up badly for most of the people trying to lose weight, which is equal to both muscle and fat.
I think in fact people lose muscle more, fat less also sometimes.
Yes, it can happen. People often see the weighing scale, right? They're happy, they're shedding
needle is
weight,
moving.
needle is moving, but they don't know which one is moving.
Right.
Is it that they're losing muscle or losing fat?
Mm.
Losing muscle is much easier when you starve yourself of all the calories and all the protein. It's easier for you to lose muscle.
Right.
But in fact, the metabolism will change. You start saving more calories, like you save more fat. Despite not eating, you end up gaining weight. You must have also heard about people saying, oh, she's not eating anything, she stopped eating altogether, but still she's gaining weight. So
So
body-
she's gaining weight or
Yeah.
he doesn't eat anything, but then
Exactly.
people do follow in real time also, they follow these diets, right? They just eat some nuts, some veggies, they eat very less, very deprived of protein, very deprived of carbs. Like you're saying, they are spoiling their metabolic system altogether. What will be some long-term repercussions in following like a diet which is too less?
Firstly, every person need to understand if they started gaining weight, what are they gaining? If a person is strength training, are they gaining muscle or gaining fat? If you're gaining muscle and hence your needle is moving on the scale, you should be happy about it.
Okay.
But if you're gaining weight and you're feeling slumpy in the mornings, you don't have the energy which is crashing, your mood is disturbing, you're not sleeping well, then that means it's unhealthier weight gain. Then you need to find out what is the reason behind gaining weight, and also you should find out the other systems, like are you deficient in nutrients, are you not having a regulated immune system, is your leptin working against you, are you developing insulin resistance, are you developing hormonal imbalances, what is that is leading to weight gain? If you can understand that, we need to work around it. But leaving all of this, every person who is gaining weight, want to lose weight, and is following the same 800 calorie or 1200 calorie kilo diet, thinking that okay, less number of calories now, I'll lose all the fat that I've gained in the past. They'll lose weight for sure,
Right.
but they're going to lose both muscle and fat.
Since you mentioned a lot of investigations, right? A lot of systems needs to be checked. What are some of the tests someone can do before starting a weight loss journey?
Before starting a weight loss journey, minimum required test would be to check their CBP, HSCRP, then vitamins like vitamin B6, B9, B12, and D. Um, Also, the thyroid hormones, especially serum TSH, along with free T3, free T4. These are the basic thing, and fasting insulin and fasting blood glucose, along with lipid profile and uric acid. These are the basic things to start. They'll have a direction where they want to work.
But what are vitamins to do specifically with weight loss or
Many
fat loss?
many studies have shown that people who are deficient in specifically B vitamins, their insulin sensitivity drops. That means they're going to become more insulin resistant. The more insulin resistant, the body will use your food less for producing energy, but the food is used for storing fat. So it's important, all the nutrients which are important for insulin sensitivity are on good levels. So that is the importance of most of the nutrients that we require, like B complex or the vitamin D. And also, what is important, though we don't specifically measure for antioxidants, if you're a person who is not eating any vegetables, any fruits, then imagine you're deficient in antioxidants. What are these antioxidants? It could be lycopene, it could be selenium, it could be quercetin. Basically, different vegetables and fruits that we eat will give us all these antioxidants. So if you're a person who is not eating veggies and fruits, then you're devoid of all these antioxidants, which are important to keep detox systems healthy, to keep DNA clean and not being intoxicated, to keep all these redox mechanisms, oxidation reduction, enzymatic reactions happening well. So it's important we keep antioxidants, we keep all these basic vitamins in check and are in good levels so that our systems are running well.
And in the Indian context specifically, what do you think are the top three barriers, which are preventing or making it difficult for people to lose fat?
I think the top one would be insufficient consumption of protein rich foods. Also, there's some myth where people think eating only meat all the time and not consuming any plant based protein sources, for example, legumes, other grains which have protein, where these have high leucine in them, is a problem. All the time we are dependent on meat can be inflammatory at times. So it's important to have diversity. So people not having, first of all, protein rich foods is a problem. People not having leucine rich protein sources is a problem. Most of the time people are dependent on ultra processed foods. Seed oils is a problem because they are becoming more inflammatory, and more inflammation will help them put on more weight. And third most common problem is nutrient deficiencies.
Okay, got it.
These are the
specifically for
top
Indian
three
context.
problems that is preventing people from losing fat.
And fasting is also trending, right? We keep hearing that we do intermittent fasting specifically for fat loss or to lose the adipose tissue.
Yes.
So, what kind of people, intermittent fasting helps in fat loss, and who should not be following intermittent fasting?
Mm. Intermittent fasting helps us in reducing inflammatory cytokines in the body. It helps us repair and detox and rebuild systems that are important for enzymatic reactions or keeping us healthy and frail. But people who have hormonal imbalances or people who have dysregulated adrenal system where the cortisol is off, it's not in normal levels, it's either too high or too low, these are the people who should be very careful with intermittent fasting, because it is a stressor, right? At the end of the day, something which has to help them can harm them when their body is not ready for it.
Right.
So I think 80% of the time intermittent fasting works for people, but they have to make wise choices as to how long that fasting window should be.
Right.
And also for women especially, they have to be a little more careful with their menstrual cycle, because on the days when body is asking for carbs, especially during the luteal phase, which is the last half of the cycle, can be challenging for them. So at that time, nourishing the body, fueling the body with complex carbs is important as well.
Right.
So people who are in their luteal phase, people who are having hormonal imbalances, people who are extremely inflamed, or people who have dysregulated adrenal system should be very careful with intermittent fasting.
I think sometime back you also mentioned it depends on genes also, right? How they are metabolizing, etc. So, can people be resistant to fat loss because of the gene influence also?
If people have ApoE4 variant,
Mhm.
these are the people who may not do very well with keto kind of diets.
Okay.
So they may not tolerate ketogenic diets well. So in Indian subtext, there are a lot of people who have these variations in gene mutations where they carry one or sometimes both the alleles of a variant called ApoE4.
Mhm.
These are the people who should be careful with ketogenic diets, or sometimes it may not be suitable for them.
And in general, what's your say around ketogenic diets? Because we see that's a huge trend. I think from a long time, right? Since like a few years, it's been trending. So does that really work for fat loss?
Ketogenic diet is a tool. That tool should be used very precisely
Okay.
when needed. If it's used well, I think it's good for you. Because when you're on a ketogenic diet, it's important you balance with electrolytes. It's important you detoxify well. It's important you support foods that can enrich your gallbladder, because you have to mobilize a lot of fat through your gallbladder and liver. So it's important you nourish foods, for example, bitter foods for gallbladder. Also, liver supporting foods are very, very crucial. So as long as you're doing all these, taking all these measures, it can help you. Otherwise, we have seen individuals who have done ketogenic diet and ended up with stones in their gallbladder, or ended up with stones in the kidney.
Right.
It's because they are having most of the time electrolyte imbalances, or they're not eating enough foods that can nourish their gallbladder and liver.
And when someone is following ketogenic diet, I think it's deprived of carbs, right? I think for a while it's fine, but in the long run, do you think carbs are an enemy? When it comes to fat loss.
Carbs should be taken in phases. They should be fasting, feeding. Both windows should be there. It cannot happen where you have eliminated carbs completely from your diet, especially if you're female, for long period of time. You need to bring back carbs into your body in phases, wherein you are replenishing your body, especially during your luteal phases, especially when you're preparing for your pregnancy, especially when you have very high physical activity that involves high physical activity in your day-to-day routine. Then carbs are important fuel. And especially if you're doing high intense workout, high intense strength training, then it's important to refuel with carbs. Carbs are not always the enemy. It's important what time of the day you consume, and context is important. When are you consuming in relation to your physical activity? So that makes all the difference.
And lastly, I think fat loss journey and mental health are like an infinite loop, right? If your mental health is not well, automatically you tend to gain fat, and if you are facing challenges in losing fat, automatically confidence issues like body shaming, all of this is like a very toxic loop. While being very making conscious choices, how do people keep up with mental health during their fat loss journey, and how are they like connected practically? What can someone do to balance both the systems together?
I think mindset is more important, discipline is more important, preparing yourself for the journey is more important. Oftentimes, people are not prepared for the journey that they're going to take. So, it's important they prepare their own toolkit. If they're entering a fat loss journey, if they've not prepared their sourcing the food, if they're not prepared what they're going to do during that time, who they are going to surround themselves with, if that planning is not done and they're not preparing their journey for it, then that can backfire. Because often it's important who you surround yourself with, where you travel to, what kind of day-to-day activities that you do. what kind of foods that you surround yourself with. Do you prepare for your lunch, breakfast, and dinner? All these make sense. So discipline is something which is very crucial, and practice on that even before they start the weight loss journey. For example, sourcing the foods. If these are the important food sources that we require for our journey, did we procure them?
And more importantly, did we remove?
More importantly, did we remove the foods which are unhealthy for us away from us, that we can't reach them? Do we remove the people, are we keeping the people away from us who can spoil our discipline? That is important too.
Very difficult problem. Yeah.
Very difficult problem to solve. But this is the kind of preparation that we need to have, the mindset. And again, if there are some recipes that are easy to make during your weight loss journey, are you equipped with all of those? So I think this is a planning mindset that is required, because when do we fall off track? Either because we are not prepared enough, kitchen is not ready, we are hungry but we don't have any food ready. Nobody's going to prepare them for us. It's us who should plan for the journey. So I think prepping for the preparation is very crucial.
Taking good amount of time before we start
journey. Yes.
How is in general mental health connected to weight gain or adding up to more fat? How is it directly connected?
Most of the people, if you see, who have gained weight, also have a problem with depressive episodes, low dopamine, low serotonin, where they often complain of not finding the joy in the activities that they used to find before, feeling very depressed. So these are the common signs and symptoms they carry along with weight gain. This is often because their gut microbiome is altered. It is not making enough dopamine for them. It is also because they don't have enough nutrients to support the synthesis of their neurotransmitters. So it is a problem with neurotransmitters. These are the people often they make low neurotransmitters. These are the people who have the gut microbiome altered. These are the people who have brain fog. So all these things go hand in hand. When they're gaining weight, they also have bad gut health, and which can contribute to decreased production of neurotransmitters, and they feel those symptoms of depression or craving for foods which are rich in sugar, salt, or in trans fats. So these are the kind of mood changes that they have. Once they start eating good food, actually foods that can nourish them, support their gut health, if they start doing that for at least a month, they'll see that their mood change. They'll see that their cravings come down. Though they're seeing the same foods like before, they don't want to consume those foods. They see that their inflammation comes down. They see that their mind is more clearer than before. They start making healthier lifestyle
Motivation
choices. And then motivation also begins, because dopamine is an important neurotransmitter which is important for pursuit, discipline, motivation. So they need that reward. So they choose, the choices change. So refeeding the gut in a way that the gut can help back for them is the important change that we need to make.
We are trying to simplify very complex longevity science into bite-sized information. If you think this information is useful for you and for your family members, and if you think this life-saving preventive hacks can help people out there, please share these videos. And we are trying to do this every week. So please do like, share, and subscribe.